Conversation in regards to the election date. There's been a lot of conversation going on. Should it be in August? Should it be in December? Well, this morning we're hosting the man who tabled that bill to Parliament, and it's Uganda Member of Parliament, Mr. David Ochieng, together with a legal expert, Mr. Eric Mutua. He's the chairman of the Law Society of Kenya, just to explain to us, the legality behind all of this. And of course, Mutegi Njau will be leading this conversation. Any questions, comments, suggestions? 22422 is the SMS line. For now, I hand you over to Mutegi. Mutegi?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
All right. Now, Mr. Ochieng, this matter is very contentious.
Indeed.
It was the decision to make August the election month was discussed at length during the time we were writing the Constitution. Now, all of a sudden, you want to change it. Justification?
Yeah, just like many other articles of the Constitution, all things in the Constitution today are discussed at length, both at Bomas, in Kilifi, Naivasha, and all that. And like every other issue that happen in life, things change. Opinions change, and I have a couple of reasons that I've given why I think elections should be done in December. And if you allow me, Mutegi, before we start the discussion, I can take you through the reasons. Yeah, a couple of them. They're around 7, 8. But I'll start that on this background, that elections being done in Kenya are foreseen to happen over a period of no less than 5 months. No less than 5 months, this way. That if you do elections on August 8th, the results are announced on August 15th, 7 days, within 7 days, right? Then anybody that has a problem with those results, the presidential elections, must go to court within 7 days. That takes you to 15th. That takes you to 21st of August. Elections are done on the 8th, announced by 15th. Then by 21st of August, someone can go to court. Okay? Now, the court must determine that issue within 14 days. That takes you to around, again, 10th of September. Now, if the court decides that the result, the election were done wrongly, and that you have to go back to elections, the IBC has 60 days from the 10th of September. 60 days will take you to around 10th of November. Okay? So I want us to have that discussion on that backdrop. That there is a clear case where someone goes to court stage 1. But where someone doesn't get 50 plus 1%, and so we go for a runoff, then someone again challenges the result of a runoff. The runoff has to be done in 30 days. So that takes you to already September 15th. So where there's a runoff and then someone challenges the result, this could go up to December. Okay? And so I want us to discuss this in that backdrop, that the Constitution already contemplates that an election called any time could go between 2 weeks and 4 to 5 months. So I want us to have that, that backdrop. And so I looked at it this way, that if someone went to court, and this is not far-fetched, because even the last election, the first election of the Constitution, someone went to court. So if that happens, then our KCSE exams are done normally in October through November, which falls in that period I've talked about. Our KCSE exams happen again between around November, which again falls within that period. And so my question is, which one is the lesser evil? Children have prepared for the last 8 years. They're doing exams in November. Some have prepared for the last 4 years, doing exams from October to November, in high school and primary respectively. Which is the lesser evil? To postpone the opening of schools or to postpone exams? This is the question that really, one of the things that determined my choice of date.
That might be
debatable, yes, and I think we debate it.
That could be abolished if there is a move to abolish examinations.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that you calculate the exams they do throughout the year. Yes. So you don't have to do anything.
I agree, that will be fine. That'll be fine, but so that's not all we are today.
Yeah, okay.
Mutegi,
that reason therefore is thrown out.
It can't be thrown out, Mutegi, because there's no law as we speak. And remember, there's a policy proposal to do that way, but it's been rejected by the current government. They're saying exams will remain. So you can't throw it on that score alone. Secondly, Mutegi, in the last 3 years I've been in Parliament, we've reported huge amounts of money towards revamping our tourism. Tourism that was battered because of population violence. If you live in this country, you know. Now, this, if you go to the Kenya Tourism Board, they'll tell you that their major tourism item in Kenya is the wildebeest migration. Now, this happens between the months of June and October. Now, again, you can check your facts. Now, August is right within this period. Yeah. Now, you're telling me that every 4.5 years, we'll have to be pumping so much money into tourism because our election disrupted an event in the calendar of not of the country, but of the world. Because whenever a wildebeest migration happens, the whole world is focusing on that time, and this the time we also make our money.
Who said that once the elections, tourists will not come?
Because we also live in Kenya and we know what happens during elections.
People campaign and they elect.
The possibility of
Masai Mara.
Mutegi, you've been around longer than I've been. The possibility of violence and the fear that comes to elections cannot be just wished away, Mutegi. If you want to do that, it's fine, but at least it's something that I've seen in this country happening, that every time elections are done, and that brings me to the other reason, that people fear. When elections are done, you see people migrating to the rural areas. Is it a lie? Is it a lie, Mutegi, that people don't want to stay in Nairobi and Naivasha and Eldoret during elections? And so the reason that I've heard being said that, oh, people should vote where they live, a very good reason, an ideal situation. But because you've not been able to secure this country, I'm telling you that I'm very sure about it, that no Kikuyu will vote in Eldoret. Most Kikuyus will want to travel back to the rural areas because of the fear of violence. I mean, these are my reasons. No, with 8 reasons.
For the two reasons.
Yeah. Well, I think I would start by saying that the discussion and the debate by my learned friend, Mheshimiwa, who is also a lawyer, is not a frivolous debate. I think it's a debate which needs to be encouraged. My only problem with the approach in Parliament is that during the constitution making process, there was discussion within the entire country about shifting the election date from the usual December to August. And this debate was there, pros and cons, and eventually Kenyans settled on August. If you leave it to parliamentarians to discuss and change the date from August to December, then I think there is a risk that a move which is likely to affect the outcome of the leaders of this country is only subjected to members of parliament and not to the entire country to debate through probably a referendum. There is a question as to whether or not it's a referendum question, but in my view, if I'm not going to get the correct leaders in terms of governments, if by moving the date from August to December will affect the results of the persons who are elected into office, then there is a possibility that that is a referendum question, because it will inform the governance of the country. And if it is informing the governance of the country one way or another, then it can be easily be termed as a referendum issue. So it's a debate which, if it were to be opened to the entire country, then that is the ideal situation, other than to parliamentarians alone. That is my view about the bill by my learned friend.
The other reasons?
In the last 2 weeks, and just to mention that this bill it is not the first time this bill has come before the Assembly. In the last Parliament, the Lord Honorable Mutula Kilonzo, may Lord rest his soul in peace, as minister, spearheaded this bill. It was taken to cabinet passed it. It was primed to be passed by the House, but the court, there was a case in court that time, remember, that now said elections, the first election under the constitution, will be done in March. So the bill then became nugatory at that time. Okay, so it wasn't a new idea, but that time the committee in Parliament went around the country and they made a very good report on Kenyans saying, and Kenyans from various walks in Samburu, they were saying, oh, this is the month, August is the month when we're out there looking for pasture. In Lower Land, for saying circumcision issues. People had various reasons. Now, 2 weeks ago, we also went around the country. We went to no less than 12 counties doing public participation on this bill. And everywhere we went, apart from Kisumu, where the reason people said they didn't want was simple. People were so focused on, there's this 2/3 gender rule thing. And so we had people who had fixed their mind that they're not coming to discuss the election dates, they're coming to discuss the 2/3 gender rule. So they said, we want this one. Okay? But the 11 areas, everyone said election in December is the day they want. But the other reasons include the budgeting cycle. I've heard reasons that this can be tinkered with. But in an election year that happens in August, again, it will affect 2 financial years. And I'm happy this debate is happening at a time when you're discussing the Auditor General's report. I'm telling you, how civil servants in this country have been accused of tweaking and playing around with the budget figures. So the budget cycle in this country, the budget preparation process starts way in August up to September the following year. But it peaks in the month of February when the budget policy statement is brought to Parliament. And then in April when estimates are brought. And then after that, we as Parliament must pass the budget and the appropriations bill that now allows government to spend by end of June. Okay? After that, by end of September, Parliament must have passed the finance bill, the one that allows the government to be able to raise revenue. Okay? Now, if campaigns, if the elections happen in August, then of course we must go home by 8th of June. And this year you saw the kind of tug of war we had on 2 very important bills in the country, the revenue allocation bill and the county revenue allocation bill also. These ones I can tell you for sure, even if you have to cut time, these ones will not be done on time. This cannot be done by June 8th. If by June 30th is when we are struggling, calling people back to Parliament every other time. Now, secondly, in a year where you're doing elections don't affect only one institution, the IBC. It affects almost the whole, institutional framework of the bureaucracy of the government, security, schools, and all that. So the feeling I have is that rushing a budget in an election year gives civil servants the room to start, doing gymnastics and monkey games with our money. And secondly, Parliament, I'm very sure, is not properly equipped in an election year, in election mode, to be able to cut time and say, let's pass this by May. We'll do our own thing. I'm very sure about that. And so the budget cycle, even if you have to pass it by May, I usually by September we'll have passed the finance bill. So it was something that personally I've seen the reasons that were given at Bomas, and I personally feel that the reasons, in my opinion, are not justifiable.
I wanted to say that I don't know that Mheshimiwa has addressed his mind to the fact that this question of the election date has been litigated in the High Court and in the Court of Appeal.
I have.
And the courts have made a determination that come the next election, it's going to be in August. I don't know whether you've interrogated that bit. Yes.
The issue at court that time was the first election under the new constitution. And the arguments were that MPs were saying we must serve our full term. And the section of clauses, the constitution said that Parliament must serve its unexpired term. So the condition was, what is the unexpired term? Okay? And that's why the court said that they were sworn in on January 14th, and so their term expires on January 14th, assuming that their term is 5 years. Okay? Now, so the court said the first election under the constitution.
That was the first one.
Yes. But now the subsequent it said it shall be done in August. Now, when Ochieng was elected in Ugenya, I knew I was going to serve a shorter term. I knew that. Even now, I know I'm going to serve a shorter term. Yes. Whether it's done in August or in December, I'll serve a shorter term. It doesn't worry me. Because if I run for Parliament, you can be sure I'll come back. But the idea that you cannot touch the constitution because the court said so, because if you look at, and I want to refer to page 42 of their judgment, because the court was asked to decide on whether changing the election date would require a referendum. And the court didn't say anything on it. The court said that because we've decided that the first election under the new constitution shall be done in March, we therefore refrain from making any comments about the requirement of the referendum or not, because that's not a matter that now is live. Okay? Because I've read those judgments of the High Court and that of the Court of Appeal. But the most important thing is that the courts, and they said so, the courts can never stop Parliament from changing the constitution or at least doing any law. At least my colleague knows that the courts will allow us to do whatever we want to do, and if someone goes before them to challenge the process, the courts will determine the matter either way. On the issue of a referendum, which I think is very important to address, It will indeed be good for Kenyans who involve themselves in this debate, and that's why you're even here today. It's not a member of parliament, it's a Kenyan, right? You're a Kenyan, you're discussing this issue. But the same constitution, if you look at Article 146 and 102 and 142, tells you, and 255, 255 talks about areas that will require a referendum. And one of the areas is a change, a change in the constitution that will affect the term of the president.
Yes.
Now, in 142, the term of the president is defined this way. In 142A, it says that the term of the president runs from the day he is sworn in till the next president is elected. It further says in B that the president shall serve 2 terms, and no more and no less. Now, it doesn't tell you how long a term is. In fact, under the Constitution, the only guys whose terms are determined in the Constitution is the MCAs, under 177.4, which says that the County Assembly is elected for a term of 5 years. Now, for members of Parliament, your term ends on the date of the next general election. It could be 5 years, less 5 years, or more 5 years, but it is not determined at 5 years. Okay? So MPs will always serve a shorter term. Presidents will always serve a longer term because of that after election and all these things that happen.
I differ to disagree.
I wanted to finish on the referendum issue. So 146 says this, that where the president can't act as president or is incapable, and a person acts as president for a period not less than 2.5 years, this person will be deemed not to have served a full term. Okay? So if you want to know what a term is, and if you look at the documents related to that discussion about the term of the presidency, the idea of fixing it to 2 years and saying that if it affected someone should go to a referendum was to prevent things that you've seen happening in Burundi and Rwanda, to prevent a person saying that we should open it to a 3rd term or we should reduce it to 1 term only of 6-7 years. This was the idea. But in terms of months, you can't tell me that this will require a referendum. Public participation is fine, yes. I think
I'll differ with my learned friend a bit. His interpretation of the Constitution is a bit restrictive. As I said, if the change of the date is likely to influence the leader that is going to be in office, either as a member of parliament or as a president, if that shift on the date will bring about probably results which were not the expected results, that is a change which influences the governance structure of the country. And if the governance structure of the country is affected, that becomes a referendum issue. It's not a question of the term alone. It's not a question of the term of office. It is a question of the effect, the results of the shift of the date. If there are points where, or there are factors which would lead one to conclude that indeed December is not an ideal date for election, because there are people who may not vote eventually, because there are people whose rights to vote will be affected, then that, in my view, means that the ultimate results of this election is not a reflection of the will of the people, and therefore that becomes a question of a referendum issue.
I'm taking that's a very good argument, but it's a tenuous one, in the sense that if you look at 255, which I thought, I don't know if I can read it for you, 255 is very clear. It talks about the term of office of the president. But even if this argument is right, I would like to know the manner in which the election date would affect the free will of the people. Because in my opinion, it could actually be reversed, in the sense that, like I told you, of course I refused it, but I have a feeling that most of my kinspeople, based on what happened in 07, 08, will always travel home to vote at home. Most of my people will want to travel from Eldoret and from Nairobi, because they are not sure. And they say,
ridiculous argument that Kikuyus cannot vote.
No. I just use an example. I'm now saying the lawyers, or even the lawyers for that matter.
No.
Just a minute, because of the fear people have. Security in this country has been a matter that has not been handled.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
When people are voting in, say, in Kawangware, we have an MP there, we have Kamba MPs.
I agree.
Who votes for them?
It's Kenyans. Should be Kenyans.
All of them
should be Kenyans.
I hear what you're saying. That
people don't necessarily go.
Probably.
I don't go to vote home. In fact, I have been in Nairobi for years. I don't go to vote in Tharaka Nithi. I vote in Kajiado where I live. And my children vote there.
I agree with you.
And a lot of people who are my neighbors, Kisis, Luos, they vote there.
But you know, the
So
other issue which
it?
I would want probably to support him a bit is, you see, I could register in Nairobi, but elect to vote at the voting day, elect to vote in my county, in Kitui County, for instance, so that we can make a distinction between where you have registered and where you can vote. Am I right?
No, you're right. You're
yes.
right, but sorry.
So that eventually, even if I were to travel up country in December, then I'll still be allowed to vote, irrespective of the fact that when it comes to the registration, I registered in Nairobi.
What I can assure you,
you can also do it in August.
Exactly. What I can show of Mutegi is this.
When my son is moving December,
what I can show you is this, and that's why I said it's an ideal situation. Someone will take their voter's card here in Nairobi and say, I'll vote in Starehe. But then because of the fears of insecurity, and this one is something that you can take either way, people will travel. They will take their voter's card in Starehe, but on the eve of the election, they'll travel anyhow and lose their right to vote. People do that, and there are so many people who have done that. That people on the election day, they travel and say, I don't know what will happen, so he travels to Nyalugunga for that matter, and then vote because he didn't register to vote in
tell me, so if you're able between August and December, why can't they do whatever they want to do in December, but not in August?
It is the point that if elections are called in August, it's fine, people will vote, but I'm very sure in my mind that people will travel. And when they travel, most of them will have been encouraged, take your voter's card where you live, right? And on the eve of elections, because of those fears I've told you about, people will still travel back to their rural homes, and they will not exercise their right to vote because they chose to vote in Tarehe. But on the date of election, they feared, for their whatever it is that they feared, they travel.
And I think the other issue which Mheshimiwa is not addressing is, I think one of the issues which were raised by Kenyans during the constitution making process was that if we stick with a December date, what is likely to happen is that generally because of the holidays, people will be disoriented in terms of whether they are going to vote or not. Majority end up not voting because of the fact that it's during long holidays and people are in holiday. But if you have a specific date which is not affected by the social activity and lives of the people, and by having a date like in August, then it means that we'll only have one agenda come to election date, and everybody's mind will be focused on voting, and they'll come and vote, and the outcome will most likely reflect what the public wants.
No, I agree with you, but I've not got an answer, a good answer, in the sense of which is the lesser evil. Postponing exams to January.
Why postpone?
Because of what I told you about, Mutegi. You refuse this, yet there's no law. We've not done a policy in this country that tells us that exams will now be done in January. The exams will be done in October.
As the Minister of Education said, we will not have election. They will not have education.
No, Mutegi. I don't think.
Did we not do elections in March? Education continued.
No. I mean, Mutegi.
We did election in 2013.
I agree. And there were no exams in March. There were no exams in March. There were no exams in March. My fear is, Mutegi, your son has been going to school for the last 8 years. He's supposed to sit KCPE, or your son is going to school in high school. He's supposed to sit KCPE exams in October. And then that's the time when the runoff is happening. Is this child, are we fair to this child?
You see, his assumption is that there is likely to be a runoff. That is a
runoff, or someone goes to court. It can't be an assumption because it already happened. It already happened. No, the result of the Supreme Court would be, are we going to do a rerun? I mean, we had someone going to court in the last election.
Yes.
So it's not an assumption.
But even if you push it to
it's a reality.
Your computation, you push it with a runoff up to September?
No, if the court decides,
yes,
then you'll be talking about November. So in between here, there's this tension and suspense on what's going to happen in the country. If it's a runoff, it's going to happen in September. If it's a court-induced one, October, November. I mean, the dates were contemplated in the Constitution. The dates are not in vacuum. The Constitution says if it's a runoff, within 30 days. If it's court-induced, within 60 days.
But surely those people who agreed about August knew there were going to be all those things and the schools will run. I don't see why the schools of examination won't run.
Mutegi, this is a debate, like you said, there's a healthy one. Okay? That Kenyans must engage in. And in any debate, if I convince you, well and good. If I don't convince you, and like in Parliament, and like I said when I was moving the bill, the reason we have a Parliament is a chamber of debate. And you convince your colleagues. If your colleagues are not convinced about your reasons, they say, no, David, this is not right. If they're convinced about your reasons, they'll pass it.
I'll agree with them on one point, that during the constitution-making process, the fear of December was largely informed by the fact that there was this perception that the former president, Daniel Arap Moi, used to fix the date for elections in December for ulterior motives, including the persons who are probably informed and the persons who are probably opposed to his leadership will not get an opportunity to vote by going up country. That is no longer applicable now, and that is why I'm saying it is not frivolous for us to open this debate at this time as a country.
And that's why the bill was brought early. That's why I brought the bill early, Mutegi, 2.5 years, 3 years before elections, so that Kenyans can debate it. And I didn't bring it in January election, being done in December. I brought it 3 years before elections so that people can reflect on it. Did we make the right decision then? Can we then tinker with it? I mean, it's only a man that doesn't change his mind. You know a train is coming, you know it's going to hit you, but you're saying, I'll just stand there meanwhile, because the Constitution says so.
That's why I'm persuading my learned friend, to allow this to be a referendum question, not an issue for Parliament to discuss. And
I agree. In fact, it doesn't depend on me.
Yes.
On whether it's good for a referendum, it doesn't depend on me, really. It depends on the courts, and what the body is concerned will determine. It doesn't depend on Parliament, really. Once a bill is passed, then it goes to the presidency. At that level is when it's determined whether it's going to go for a referendum or not. Parliament can't decide on it. We can't, as Parliament, say this will not go for a referendum. No, it's not dependent.
Okay, you said the right reasons. You have given out 3 now.
Now the other reason, which I've given you 4 reasons so far.
Okay.
The 5th one, and this one stems from even the way the Americans decided on the election date. You know, it's there for a long time. Even the second Tuesday was actually picked from the American Constitution. Okay. And Americans decided on the election date on two basic criteria. One was that November, second week of November, they had just done their harvests. So people were not busy doing anything in the farms. And 2, November was just 2-3 months away from the winter. So the order was good. Now in Kenya, the same applies. In December, people had just finished with their farms. If you go look at the food basket of this country in Tanzania and Kitale, this is a time when people had just done their harvest. Secondly, in December, most parts of the country are dry. There are no rains. And so traversing the country, selling your policies is a good idea. And Kenyans now, instead of being busy in the farm, Kenyans are able to listen to and consider the views that are being put forward. The policies. Let me just finish. The policies.
Okay. Agriculture.
Agriculture for me is a very important issue.
Okay.
Because one of the reasons people cry just after elections is that people never listen, people never take time to listen to what are politicians talking about. What are they promising us? People don't. And that's why after every election, people don't even remember what they were promised. Because people are not keen on it. But it's good to develop a culture where we put elections at a time when people are relaxed. There's not so much activity going on, and that's why I think December is the best date. Secondly,
I want to mention something about this issue. I think that you'll have a problem with that argument. Because of 2 reasons. I remember very well during the constitutional making process, why August was picked is because in terms of agriculture, there's not much activity happening in August. That is one. In December, there is farming going on in most of our agricultural areas. And therefore,
it would be good to know where. It would be good to know which parts of areas of the country when that time.
Well, August is majority. I mean, in many of the areas in Kenya, in August, there's no farming taking place.
Hey,
in August. Well, that is why I'm saying it's a debate.
Yeah.
So I remember the argument was, this is the ideal time in terms of agriculture, because there's not much activity in our farms. In December, it's raining, and most of the areas there is farming activities going on. And secondly, the argument was that let's take it, or let's have this election date at a time when it will be easier to transport ballot boxes. There will be no question of the fact that you can't reach certain areas because of transport. In August, we do not have those kind of issues.
I think it depends which side of the country you come from. Because, like I told you, when we did the public hearings, as far-flung areas as Nyeri, they were saying December is the best because in August they are busy with their farms. In Trans Nzoia, the same reasoning was given to us. I mean, I come from Western Kenya generally, and this is the time when we're doing our second planting now, and the rains are there. Yeah, we do planting twice a year, as opposed to some parts of the country. And this is the time when the rains are there. People are now very busy in the farms. So that's reasoning for me. Which of the country. And secondly, you know, the other reasoning, Mutegi, is the cultural reason that I told you about. We were in Samburu, and we were told that this is a time when pasture is not normally there, and they are off out there looking for pasture. I mean, you must consider the circumstances of every other person in this country when deciding. But like I said, you know, it's a debate that we are going into, and I think Kenyans had long gotten used to December elections. If you look at the views, and I've been watching television since this came up, most Kenyans are saying, you know, we are used to this month. And indeed, me being born during Moi's time, personally, I grew up knowing that elections are done in December. So most Kenyans are going used to this December election. It's a unique date for Kenyans.
You see, some of these arguments, to me, are just not useful. Because there is no month which will be standstill so that you can do elections. It's only one day, the day of the voting. But the campaigns will go on, whether people will go on campaign and do whatever they want to do. And the people who will be farming will be farming.
So Mutegi, in your opinion, you believe...
There is no month which will be saying, now we don't do anything, we just do elections.
I agree, Mutegi.
Except that day of the voting, where you stop doing whatever you do.
Well, no, I agree, Mutegi. But are you really convinced that the election in August will not in any way interfere with the wildebeest migration, the tourism we get, the tourism money we get?
Well, you know, it depends on it depends on the kind of campaigns we are conducting. It doesn't mean that the economy of the country must come to a standstill.
It didn't come to. It didn't. But it's better.
We are in election mood.
Senior,
it's something which you can't.
Senior. This country, every election year. In fact, if you flash back to March 2013, the economy was picking up in September, October. The lawyers, I had lawyers like you, I had you crying that it's slow. You know, and so the fact that
is a reality.
The elections, and that's we should.
That's the reality.
We should deal with that.
We need to move from that kind of notion.
We should not notion. I like the word you've used, reality. Yeah. We should move with reality.
No, I'm saying we should move from a question of every time anticipating that we are going to have chaos as a result of elections. We should have a situation where the ideal situation. We should actually aspire to a situation where the campaigns will be peaceful, they will be regulated by law, and that going forward in future, they will not really be so disruptive, even on the tourism industry. That is what we should aspire.
I agree.
But we cannot formulate law, we cannot make law in anticipation that since this is this is not a conducive environment, because we are going to have chaos, because we are going to fight. That, I think, is...
no, I agree with you on that. I'm just basing my arguments on reality. What has happened in my lifetime, what I've seen happening, is that our elections are not that peaceful. Our elections, and in the run-up to elections, you cannot convince me that a tourist will be comfortable coming to this country. And the kind of money...
I've got some comments from two guys, one Joroge from Kikuyu and another one from Joe Ondundo from Akisama. Any attempt to change the constitution by a biased MP should be discouraged and resisted. We know there are about 400 MPs in the parliament, but we see only a handful of them sitting in parliament during debates. Don't touch this Katiba. Honorable Cheng, don't you think it will be a slap on the face of Kenyans? After we pass the constitution and fix the date, the election date should be changed.
Like I said, it's only a madman that stands in front of a train. He knows the train is coming, You've seen. I've given my good reasons on why I think we should need the debt. We should change the debt. It will be for me not a good idea to say let's just go with August. Let's come what may. I mean, it's a bad way of planning. We know that these pitfalls we're going to go into. I don't mind if Kenyans want to go through the pitfalls. There's no problem.
The only valid reason to me about your change is the finance business budget. Budget trade. Because if your budget is normally passed and you can't do August and June you do the budget. Those 2 months is that's the only valid reason I can.
Maybe, but I gave you those reasons and they are debatable, like I said.
Budgeting, the bulk of it is done by technocrats.
Yeah.
And they'll be seated in their offices doing the budgets.
That's why
when MPs would.
No, I'm saying that is when it goes to you.
No, that's why you go to
Parliament, but it resolved.
The new constitution gave the budgeting making powers not to technocrats.
No, I'm talking. I know, of course.
It is given to Parliament, and the fear that I was expressing that time, and the fear that I always have, is that the way you've gone through the budget, and you had the Speaker this year bemoaning the fact that the ministries wait until the last days. If they say by 14th of April, they bring it on that 14th to deny us the chance to go through. So you can imagine what will happen in this situation where you have 6 deadlines. You must pass by the 30th of June. You're going home on the 8th. So you just pass. Things are brought.
But it can be brought earlier than that.
That's the point I'm making. If during times when there are no elections, it's not even brought even on time. This time round, what will make it?
No, Parliament, you are supervisory law. You can say we need this.
We are dealing with a situation where, senior, where we've done 5 years, Mutegi, where we're supposed to have done some laws. We are now being asked to extend those deadlines. Reason? These laws have not been brought. Have not been brought. 5 years they have not been brought. So what is the magic that's going to happen in 2017 that now things will be done in the right way and you think things will just be done?
If that's the case, why doesn't Parliament take action against those people who have failed to bring the bills?
The sanctions available to Parliament, by the way, normally, basically, they're almost like the UN kind of sanctions, where you say you will not pass your budget, then in a situation where the numbers are higher, so you will say you will not pass your... Remember this time when the Minister, the Common Secretary for Foreign Affairs didn't appear before the Budget Committee. Within 2 weeks we are told, oh, you know, this will bring the budget to a standstill, we must approve a budget. So you give a sanction, but within 1 week you're being told, no, that sanction can't work. So basically the sanctions available are not those ones that would make, for example, take someone to court or make someone sleep in the cells.
But
yeah,
no, you have a mechanism for dealing with those kind of situations.
If we had those mechanisms in a manner that would make someone feel the pain in his body, then they would work. But you know, the other day you heard Nyachai saying, oh, you know, we must extend these terms because we're not be able to do the laws on time. The AG is saying the same thing because they know that the sanctions available are only on Parliament. The Parliament that can only be dissolved if we don't pass this law.
But you know me, I of course, as a Kenyan and also as a lawyer and as the chairperson or the president of the North Side of Kenya, I'm concerned by the fact that the agencies or the persons who are responsible for bringing these bills or coming up with these bills, they appear not to have done it in time. But since even if there is an extension, is basically once, and it's for a limited period, which is 1 year, I'm comfortable that by the time we go into election, whatever laws that we were meant to pass under the Constitution, we will have passed them. I think that is my joy about all this.
I agree with you, Senior, but my worry is the way Kenyans operate. Last minuters. I've told you, if I brought this bill in 2017, this debate we're having won't happen. People will be in campaign mode. People will say, oh no, we don't care. But now I brought this bill early enough. That's why we're having this opportunity. Discuss it, accept it, or reject it, but enough time is available for us. The other day you heard the minister saying, oh, we gave the Auditor General these things the last week when he released his reports. This guy has been having these documents for the last 1 year. The last minute mentality of Kenyans. We want to do things the last minute, we want to rush things. You're now telling us that we should rush the budget because of an election.
The perception of Kenyan is that members of Parliament vote an extra. When Parliament is dropped, you not get money. So when you go to December, you get more money, more months. That's what Kenyans think you are. That's as usual, you are the selfish MPs.
I'm happy you brought it up. When I moved this bill, the reason I describe that kind of mentality as a very lazy mentality. In that
we have known MPs
you don't want to
who put themselves money.
You don't want to think of any reasons. The only thing you want to think about is these ones guys are up getting the money. I mean, I've given you 7 reasons, 8 reasons so far. You may agree with them or not, but I think it's also unfair normally to look at your MPs in terms of money only.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
It is the worst thing you can ever do.
But that is a fact that there's going to be a shift from August to December.
Yes.
That is factual. It gives you more salary.
Does it give you more salary or more days? No, because salaries are earned when you don't work at Citizen, you don't earn anything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Salaries are earned. Yes. They are not paid in gratia.
No.
So if the effect of the change of election dates is in December, yes, and MPs are going to work for extra month, why shouldn't they be paid?
No. You see, we want what you are meant to have done up to election in August.
Yes.
You ought to have finished that. It is assumed that you will have finished. No, it is assumed that you will have finished that, isn't it? Now,
I agree.
Yeah, that is what the assumption.
I only wish there was something like what we ought to have done.
Well, I'm saying the assumption is that by the time we go to the election in August, the business of Parliament would have been accomplished by parliamentarians.
No, I agree.
And then now you extend to December, which means either you stagger what you are supposed to have done.
Not pay you those workers.
No, Mutegi. I agree absolutely that people will earn.
Yes.
There's nothing like earning more.
When you think that
people, I want to put it this way. I said that when I was elected in 2013, I knew that I'll serve a shorter term. Even if elections are done in December, I'll still serve a shorter term. Elections and if you want me to push the argument, Mutegi, if elections are done in August, the MPs will have served 4 months. 4 years, and exactly 4 months. Okay? If they're done in December,
and you know that is...
No, let me just finish. Okay, let me just finish. Okay. If they're done in December, they'll have served 4 months, 4 years, and 8 months. Now, if you ask anybody in the streets here, how long is an MP's term? What will be the answer? No, just a minute. Let's answer that first. What will be the answer?
No, there's an answer which is legal in nature.
No, just a minute.
This answer is legal in nature is because that question went through to the right agency, which is the court, and the court made an interpretation that this life of Parliament will have to be shorter.
Which I agree with.
That it will still be shorter.
Whether August or December, it will be a shorter term.
Yes.
Whether August or December, it will be a shorter term. That is the truth. Again, if you talk about facts, we were elected on the 4th of March, right? So whether you do December or you do August, the current MPs will definitely serve a shorter term, senior. Definitely.
And that's why...
Definitely. Because the court made
the court said so, and when we went to elections, we knew you were going to serve a shorter term. Yes. So whether you do it in August or you do it in December, MPs will serve a shorter term.
His point is this, that if you take it to December, then it means that the period between August and December will be a period where parliamentarians
will be paid money.
Will be paid
salaries as usual.
Yes. Yet there was an interpretation which indicated that it will be shorter up to August.
Yes. I wanted to put it this way, Mutegi. If in a good way, in a good situation, elections are done on August 8th.
They will be held on August 8th.
Yes. August 8th. And which I don't have a problem with personally, because I told you if I ran, I would definitely come back to Parliament. That's a problem. 8th and 15th, the results are announced, everyone goes home happy.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
These guys elected on the 15th of August.
Yes.
They'll be sworn in probably by end of that month, right? Won't they be earning salaries? So if you have the issue that I hear, and this is not unique with this Parliament, Kenyans don't think the MPs should be earning anything. In my opinion, it was last Parliament is about money. This Parliament I've heard so much about money. Now September, just a minute. September, October, November. Once these new guys are sworn, won't they be earning money? So it's about this current.
They will be legitimate.
Yes,
they will be legitimate in office because they have been elected.
If we change the constitution legally, because we're not going to do a revolution legally, then even those in Parliament,
of course, I agree with you.
Legitimate.
If we change,
if we change the constitution, even the referendum and changed it, MPs will not be earning a salary they don't deserve. It will be a legitimate extension.
Are you not in the process of changing the pension so that even one-term MPs can get?
I don't support that personally.
Is there a move in Parliament to do that?
There's been a move, yeah. I don't support that personally, because I think there must be some modicum of decency in the way you work. You should work hard to earn your pension. But by saying you're working for people hard enough, they bring you back. But you can't go in there to be earning to earn pension.
For me, that question of them earning extra salary up to December, it's not a big bother to me. I'm worried about the grounds upon which this debate on moving the dates from August to December, they are based on. What are the grounds? That is my only concern, and that is why I agree with you when I say that the debate should be reopened. I think for all Kenyans to have a say as to what they want in terms of the election day.